Welcome to the interview with Metal Temple magazine. I'm happy to have here Dani from Last Days of Eden. Welcome, Dani.
Thanks, Thomas. I'm so glad to be here talking with you.
You are Last Days of Eden, a symphonic metal band from Spain. So we're actually talking while you are in Spain. So what is the current situation with all the Corona things going on in Spain?
I think that nowadays it's a weird topic. Things are going really weird for people from my age or older or even younger, because we've never seen like this before. And we still have some restrictions here and there. The cases are kind of low. Deaths are almost gone. So we are going through this like in a good way, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's similar here. So cases are going down, slightly down, still at a high level, but I think it's all improving. It's a little bit weird thing, of course, because at the moment, the pandemic is not really the topic people discuss, unfortunately. So that is unfortunately another terrible thing. However, the pandemic was present during the last 2 years, and it probably did have some impacts on Last Days of Eden. So how did this affect the band?
Well, it was, I think that mostly it was positive, because thanks to the pandemic, I am the main songwriter in the band. And back then, right before the pandemic, I was really busy with touring stuff. I'm currently sound engineer on the studio and for live shows. And I was touring Mexico during the January 2 years ago. Right after that, I went through Europe with Rage. And right after that, this pandemic came to Europe. Actually, I remember that it's supposed that the pandemic came to Europe through Italy, and it's supposed that it landed there around 15th of February 2 years ago. By then, we were doing 2 shows in Italy. So, maybe we were spreading.
So we were spreading the virus to Spain.
That could be. I would say no.
Interesting. I actually have been also in Mexico in January 2020, before the pandemic started. So
yeah, and regarding your question, right after that, I started to do the composing thing, because we have to stop in our daily jobs, in this case touring stuff and recordings. So until then I got almost, or maybe no time at all, and we got the lockdown, so I had to stay at home for 2 months. And that was the moment when I composed 99% of the music for the new album. So on that side, it was positive. I have to say that I have no friends with important damages from the corona, so I'm so super happy because of that. But on the other hand, you see that there's a lot of people over there around the world having bad moments, which, well, if I put that in a balance, I would prefer not to have an album and to keep all the people safe.
Oh, yes. I mean, of course, that you cannot compare that, but actually you have been very active during the Corona period, because you did not only write a new album, Butterflies, you also released the symphonic or instrumental version of the previous album, Gonzales. What was the idea behind that?
Right after the release, or around the release from Chrysalis, the previous album, we got the chance to do the recordings with a real orchestra, a professional one, which was a really pleasure. We got a conductor who is pretty well known here in Spain, and they all were involved in the arrangements and recording sessions, and they were really they really wanted to do something for the band, which was really impressive to me. We got all the recordings, and there was a sound engineer who did the recordings, and he was about to do the mixes and the mastering job, but in the end it took so long to do the mastering job because he had another jobs back then. So we got this release to be postponed for almost 1 year, and by then we thought that it was not the right time to do the release, so we just kept the album in a chest. And when this pandemic came, we thought that maybe we would take some more time for a new release, and we had to release something because that was the moment. That was at least what we felt. So we went for that, and well, it worked.
Excellent. Let's talk a little bit about the band history. Last Days of Eden were formed in 2011. How did it all start?
It was, I think that we came out on 2013.
Okay.
I think. We did our first show on 2013, and we made the band like 2 weeks before the first show. So that's why I think that we did this on the 2013. Sorry, what was the question?
How did it all start? What was the idea? What was the idea?
I got some friends who came to the studio to do some recordings with bands, and we were always talking about doing something together. I had some songs that I wanted to record, and we just do 4-song recording demo tape, let's say. And after that we got a chance to do one show 2 weeks later, and we just jumped to the pool, and here we are. After that we got another show and another one. We got a chance to open for Udo, Big Schneider. And we got a chance to do some really cool shows here, I mean big ones. And we felt that we had to do some more recordings, to do some touring with the releases, and one after the other, here we are.
You have been quite active with Last Days of Eden. So I think the first EP came out, Paradise came out in 2014. I believe that is the demo. And then you released actually a number of albums, Ride the World in 2015, I think, then Trucks and More in 17, Chrysalis in 18, and then Butterflies, we talk about later on in 2021. So it's pretty active for the band.
Yeah, I think that we always like to do things. So we did this first demo tape, this EP called Paradise. Then we got this proper release, which was Ride the World. After Ride the World, we really wanted to do something like Traxel More, which is an acoustic version of Ride the World. And it was really special because it's sung in Asturian, our native language, because here in Spain we have the Spanish, of course, but in some regions we got our own language. And our language is Asturian, because we are from Asturias, and it works pretty well for being recorded in Asturian, because we sold some copies out of Spain, which was really a surprise for us. Then after that it came Chrysalis, which was pretty nice album to me, and then we did some similar thing like we did with the Traxel More, which was the Symphonic Chrysalis. And after that we come to the present day, which is Butterflies.
You did have a couple of lineup changes. A few drummers came in and went out. Also, I think a couple of bagpipers. In 2017, Sara Ember joined on the violin. But I think the key members remained always in the band. So is that actually the basis of being so creative and so active?
To be honest, I don't know. I am the main songwriter, and I am the producer of the band. So I think that being so creative should come from me, but I don't see that I am that much creative, so I am not sure how to answer the question. Maybe we at some point we had to do some lineup changes because of nowadays we cannot do this for a living. So some people, they cannot get the right time, and we really want to do things. We really want to get some time for recordings. We really want to do some touring, some shows, and it takes time. So I understand that not everybody is ready to rock in this case.
Yes, coming a little bit to you, you are not only at Last Days of Eden, so you started actually with Dark Sun, which is a power metal band, and you are the vocalist of Dark Sun. I think they were active until 2017, 2018, but I think almost for 20 years. And with a very active discography, I think. So almost every year an album. How did it all start with Dark Sun? And how did you actually start playing guitar and being a vocalist?
Well, I've been playing guitar since I was 12. I always played guitar, and at some point I joined a band called Northwind, which was before this Dark Sun. Northwind was a pretty successful here in Spain band, here in Spain, and at some point we split, and we did Dark Sun, and we got no singer back then. We couldn't find a proper one, and the band just heard me a couple of times like singing, because I used to do some choirs, backing vocals in the previous band, and they just asked me, why the hell don't you sing if you can do it? So I just tried, and they liked, and we did some recordings. We did like 8 albums, I think.
Yeah, 8 albums.
Yeah, some years before we split, we started with Last Days of Eden, but at the end of this career with Jackson, there was not many shows. There was no cool activity, so we decided to split the band again because it was almost death. And on the other hand, I had Last Days of Eden, which was, as you mentioned, pretty active somehow. So I decided to put all my efforts in Last Days of Eden, so, which at some point made more sense to me.
You mentioned 8 albums with Dark Sun, and I think when you were very busy with Dark Sun, you started then with Last Days of Eden. Was the Last Days of Eden first of all maybe more a side project?
Yeah, but it became the main project.
Yeah, of course. So over time then, and then of course when Dark Sun wasn't active anymore any longer, so of course that was the main project. Both bands differ quite a lot in style, isn't it?
Kind of. For me, it's not that different because I used to be the main songwriter on Dark Sun too, but it was more power metal, let's say, more double bass stuff and maybe faster stuff. But the essence, I think that it's not that different than Last Days of Eden. But in this case, Last Days of Eden is more, let's say, pop music, kind of, because it's more, it's slower, it's more musical, it's more melodic than Jackson. but I think that the essence is not that different.
Okay, that brings me actually straight to the next question. How would you describe the music of Last Days of Eden? Not really pop music, isn't it?
Why not?
Well, it's actually, metal after all, isn't it?
Yeah, but what's the difference between, let's say, we have a song which is called the Piper Score. We have a video, and many people say that it reminds to Mike Oldfield. So at some point, I think that there's no such big difference between pop and metal somehow. You know?
Okay. I see a little bit the link to Mike Oldfield when I listen to Last Days of Eden, at least.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, I just try to do songs, and the arrangements go in a way that could be metal, but somebody who listens to pop music can easily listen to Last Days of Eden.
Well, I actually have sometimes the feeling when I listen to Delane, it could be pop music too.
So, yeah, of course. Maybe the tunings from the guitars and basses and the distortion from these instruments make the difference. But I love many albums that could be pop at the end of the day.
But a very important element in the music of Last Days of Eden are the Celtic folk elements.
Yeah.
Many people relate Celtic folk with Ireland or Scotland, but you come from one, you said Asturias, and that is one of the Celtic regions of Spain, isn't it?
It is. Asturias has a really, really, really old traditional Celtic stuff. I don't think that bagpipes were made here for the first time, but not longer after that. And yeah, we are supposed to be playing bagpipes here in our region for more than 1,000 years, and it's really close to the Irish culture somehow. But yeah, we just thought and we felt that we had to do a mix between our Celtic stuff from the region and the more metal, let's say, music. And it was a point of difference between other bands. There's many bands here in Spain playing power metal or symphonic metal, but none of them are playing bagpipes too. And if you have a look around there, maybe Irish, of course, but there's not that much bands like playing melodic symphonic metal with bagpipes.
True. I guess you talk then 2 languages, Spanish, of course, and Gaelic?
Asturian,
okay.
Yeah.
Which is probably a kind of Celtic influenced, or how is it?
Yeah. Yeah, but it has kind of the same roots, but it's somehow different.
Okay. What's the difference between the Spanish Celtic regions and, say, for example, Ireland and Scotland?
It's different instruments, and we have in Spain we have really different kind of Celtic stuff. We have this region called Galicia. They have their own stuff and their own language too. We have Asturias, which is a really important Celtic area. We have Cantabria, which is another region. They talk Spanish, but they have their own Celtic stuff too. And there are many small areas with their own culture. Celtic culture. And them all at some point are really different. I think that if you are not into the Celtic stuff, they are all the same to you. But if you are into the Celtic stuff, you can see obviously many differences.
Okay, okay. I actually have been studying in Scotland, so 20 years ago, but I still remember, you know, the Celtic folk dances and the bagpipes, etc., and all this stuff. And I've actually always felt there was a big difference between Scotland and when I visited Ireland. So I felt there was always a big difference between both.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about Butterflies. That's the new album. Yep. And how was the response so far on the release?
We are super overwhelmed and super happy with that, because I can say that 99.9% of the reviews, if not 100%, are at least much better than the previous albums, which is something really important to us, because if it is not just doing something good, you have to do something better than the last time. And at some point it seems that we made this happen. Most of the reviews are focused on songs, production. The more are saying that Annie has a beautiful voice, the arrangements are so impressive. So it's like you are composing music and you think that I would love that people can understand my music in this way, and then you get their reviews and you can see that people got it. So it's, man, I can't feel more happy.
Well, actually, I wrote in my review, Butterflies perfectly connects modern symphonic metal and folk elements to a unit which is kept together by an outstanding vocalist, Annie, who is actually unfortunately not here with us. I also was impressed by the interplay of all the instruments, the guitars, the riffing, the maturity of the songwriting, also the epic melodies and the bombastic sound. How would you actually describe the sound on Butterflies?
I think that it's a really powerful stuff, but it's really melodic too. It's really symphonic, because we have in a chest symphonic album version from these Butterflies too. Because if you quit the guitars, bass, drums, and vocals, there's a full symphonic orchestra set doing the orchestra stuff, and it's I think it's full of catchy songs, but at the same time, yeah, it's really strong and heavy guitars and drums, but yeah, we have this super melodic and sweet voice from Annie, which gives something special to the songs. And on the other hand, it's me doing sometimes these second voices or backing vocals, which are stronger and more aggressive, not rough or not, it's not like death metal so vocals. It's more like melodic, but trying to do it harder.
How did the sound of the music of Last Days of Eden develop over the years?
I think it was a natural process, because since I am the producer and the main recording, mixing, and mastering engineer, this is something that I'm improving all the time. I just try to do my best in every moment. And of course, I try to get the best from the musicians when they are in the studio. Of course, music it has something to do with that. And during the first and the second album, I think that we were more with an influence from other bands. And I was like thinking in the way that I should do the songs to sound like what I wanted to sound. But in this case, for this album, it was really natural process, because I didn't think in other bands. I didn't think in the way I wanted to sound or whatever. I just tried to do my best doing songs that I loved, and yeah, we got some songs that really enjoyed. So that's what we did with the album. And I think that with this album, Butterflies, we really got somehow our own sound. We could find an own way to do a sound.
I guess the answer, where would you rank Butterflies among all the other albums? It's probably the best album so far.
For me, so far, because it's I have to say that it's a very special album to me, because I've been for near 30 years in music. I'm 41 this year, and I've been playing out there since I was 12 years. Since I was 19, I became professional, and I have to say that I never enjoyed a composing process like this one ever in my life. It was like I just got up in the morning, I sit down in front of the computer with my guitar, with the keyboard, and blah blah blah, and starting to play, arrange music, and it came like 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and I was awake, still doing things with music, and I was super happy 100% of the time. So it was a really natural and process, and that I enjoyed a lot. So this album has something really special to me. So I have to say that this is my most favorite, by far, album from Last Days of Eden.
Actually, besides the vocals, I also was impressed by the guitar work and also by the violins. So I think that were really the highlights of the album.
Thanks, man. I have to say two things over there. First, I am surrounded of really talented musicians. Every one of them, from the bass player, violin player, bagpiper, who plays also whistles, the singer, everybody in the band is much better musician than me. And I am so happy for that, because it's always a pleasure to play with people who they are really talented. They all did a super cool job. The recordings were awesome. But on the other hand, I have to say that I am so lazy to my instrument. So I'm so happy that you like it. But I have to say that usually I take a lot of time for the drum recordings and editings and for getting the sound with the vocals, with the violin, with everything. But for my guitars, I am the one who takes the less time for the recordings. Most of the guitar solos, they are improvised. One take and leave it there. And I don't mind about guitars, because I think that they are not that important in this band. I think that the highlights from the band are the bagpipes, the whistles, violins, vocals, orchestra. But yeah, guitars, they are an instrument that it has to be there, but it's not so important to me.
Okay,
even being the guitar player.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear from me, because I review quite a few symphonic metal albums, and I always have, when I listen to them, first check is, okay, is the balance right between the orchestral arrangements and the metal instruments, the guitars, the bass, the drums, etc. So, and that is actually, for me, always a key for having a good symphonic metal album, is the balance right between metal and symphonic elements, or here also symphonic and Celtic elements. So, and I felt actually that was very well balanced with especially with the guitars.
Much appreciate.
You mentioned that already. You do the recordings, you do the mixing, and you do the mastering. You do basically, and the producing. You do basically everything at the Dynamita studio in Asturias, I think.
Yep.
Is that
That's my studio.
Yeah.
I do most of the job there. Sometimes I do some recordings at home because I have some stuff here that allows me to do recordings if I need to. But yeah, I have a commercial studio. I work there with many bands from here in Spain or out from Spain. I did the last Rage recording. I did some stuff for Firewind. I did some stuff for many bands from out there. And yeah, of course, I have to do with my band because I enjoy it.
You do also the songwriting, so you basically everything is in one hand. Is that a advantage, or could that also be a disadvantage? Because when you have an external producer or someone who mixes that could have, of course, some different opinions or could hear something you may not hear anymore. So how is it? What would you think? Advantage or also a challenge?
Well, at some point, I cannot see that clear. I mean, I can do whatever I want, but it's it has some cool points and some not that cool. Let's keep with the idea that that I enjoy more than once in the band. I enjoy by composing, I enjoy by recording, but at the end of the day, I have a clear picture from the band, and that's the good point, that I know what I want and I know how to get it. So it's just a matter of time that I get it. It's cool that I can compose a song thinking of how it's gonna sound after the recordings, or if I'm not getting the right sound, I can do the arrangements for getting the sound, or change the mixes, or try another way to do it because I want to try something. Let's say that it gives me a lot of freedom regarding that.
Oh yes, I can imagine that.
And luckily the band trusts in me, so it's like you go to a restaurant and you can try everything, and there's somebody paying for that for you, so you don't need to take care of that something is going wrong, because nobody's gonna be after you like, hey, you did something wrong, blah blah blah.
True. We already had some praise for your vocalist, Annie. I think she was really outstanding on the album, kept everything excellently together, really. But she had some help. There were a couple of guest vocalists. You actually did also had some vocal contributions, and I think was it Crown of Thorns, which was really an amazing duet, I thought, and for me one of the album highlights.
Yeah, I truly love that song. I think that I cannot get like one or two songs from the album because I love all of them, but maybe one of the songs that I listen the most is Crown of Thorns, because I love how it was in the end. We usually like to do these duets between Annie's voice and mine, because we think that we fit together really well. And yeah, that song is so special for us. We truly could find the way to mix the voices with the harmonies and that stuff, and it's really impressive. And yes, of course, we have some more guests that
yeah. And actually that is then also kept in the family, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because for everybody who doesn't know that, Annie is my wife. So it's something that we can do at home.
Yes. But you mentioned that already you had some very cool guests on the album. You had Henning Basse, Ex Metallium, Mayan, Firewind, Vasilios Manatopoulos, Twisted Corner Rage, the drummer of Rage, and Georg Neuhauser as well. Was it easy to get all of those cool guests, or how was that?
That was super easy.
Okay.
From the day one, we thought about some guests, but we got the clear picture that we did not wanted any guest to be like someone who is gonna sing and we don't know, and just for having a name in the album. We wanted friends. And luckily, I know many people in the music business because, as I mentioned, I work with many bands, and in this case, I got the chance to work with Serenity in the last tour. So I know Georg. I usually have the chance to work with Rage since I think 4 or 5 years ago, and actually I'm working with Firewind too. Henning was the singer of Firewind. And well, actually tomorrow I start the Spanish leg from the Firewind tour this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, tomorrow I have to travel to the south of Spain to start the shows over there. So yeah, I know some guys over there, and I really wanted from the bottom of my heart that they would be guests in my album. Like, you know, when you're at home and you wanted to share a piece of cake with your friends or a piece of meat or whatever, some dinner, and you invite them because you want to cook for them and you want to give them a glass of wine. And so for me, it was more or less the same. I just got the phone and I called to these guys, and I truly asked from the bottom of my heart if they wanted to do these recordings, and man, it was no doubt. So I am really thankful for that, and I'm so grateful that I have many really cool friends like these ones.
Excellent. I was trying to pick my favorite songs from Butterflies. We talked about Crown of Thorns already. Of course, that is one of my top favorite songs on the album, but also The Garden and I think Fallen Angels. What are yours and why?
I think that it's depending on the day, because I think that the mood is so important for the songs that you like. But maybe Crown of Thorns, The Secret. Sometimes I think that Abandon or Mirror, man, I tell you, I can grab just a couple of them. Yeah, it's depending on the day, because I could say that this morning I was listening to Abracadabra because I love the song. But usually I think that, yeah, if I had to pick up the 2 songs that I heard that I was listening for the most of the times, it was The Secret and Crown of Thorns.
Let's talk about videos.
Yep.
It's very important, and you actually were also very active with releasing videos. 4 videos. You released 4 videos. The Secret, I think Silence, The Garden, and Save the World. I have to say many of them are very impressive to me because they are first of all very different. Then also none of them is actually a video where the band plays the song and that's it. So there's always some cinematic features, a storyline behind that. I think I was mostly impressed by Save the World. And how is actually the video process working from the idea to the video shoot?
Well, for the first 3 videos, we worked with movie production company here. We know them since the last album because they did the video that we released with Chrysalis, the song called Falling in the Deep, and they did an outstanding job. So I talked to the director from this video regarding this new album, and I told him that I wanted to at least 3 videos, and I wanted them to do the job again, and they got 100% of freedom for doing whatever they wanted. So I just gave them the songs, and they prepare all everything. I mean, the script, the attrezzo, and the histories, the stories behind the videos and everything. So they just said like, hey guys, you have to come to this point, this day at this moment, bring your instruments and we will do the rest.
To come back to the restaurant comparison, to the food comparison, so you go in the restaurant, sit and get your food, everything's prepared, and you are happy.
Like that, yeah,
like
kind
that.
of. Yeah, you got it. You nailed it. You nailed it. For the last video, it was quite different because I got the idea. I got I have a small video production company, so I really wanted to do that video. Yeah, that's the one that I did, this Save the World video. It's the only one that it's kind of different from the other ones, and yeah, that's what we did with videos.
Did the pandemic have an effect on the video shoots?
Yeah, absolutely. We released the videos with a different order than what we thought in the beginning. The first one that was released was Silence. It was the second that we shoot. The first one that we shoot, it was The Garden, that we had to postpone for 2 times because of the pandemic. Because that was a video full of, well, there was many people working in the video. At some point, one day, I think that we got like 60 people working in the video.
Wow.
Cameras, producer, director, helper, lighting people, many people working in the video. And then the last one that we recorded with these people, it was a secret. And then the last one that we did, that was Save the World, we got no problems at all. We went to this beach that you can see in the video, and there was no restrictions regarding that, and we had, yeah, as I mentioned, no problems.
Okay.
But for the first 3 ones, yeah, we got some problems regarding how many people could work in the video, and all together, yeah.
Let's talk about a different topic, that is inspirations. You are actually more than 20 years in the business. What or who inspires you regarding your, the music? What influences you as a musician?
Let's say that on one hand, I have musicians that brings me some inspiration to play my instrument or think on other instruments. Sorry. And on the other hand, I have many stuff that I usually listen to, and that somehow, whenever I want or not, it's an influence to me. I listen to almost every style of music. I love metal, I love pop music, I love disco music, I love folk music, and everything has a small percentage of influence to me. Because yeah, I love Lady Gaga, as I do with Guns N' Roses, as I do with Slayer, as I do with Dimmu Borgir or Halloween, so at the end of the day, you are the mix between everything that you are listening to. It's the same as with the food, like what we talked with a restaurant. You are what you eat. So if you eat a lot of shit, I think that you can do a lot of shit. And if you are eating properly and you eat good things, your skin is going to be super fine, your hair is going to be super fine, your muscles are going to be super fine. And yeah, if you think that you like our music, is that I'm listening to the good ones. I listen from really different and cool stuff since I was 4 years. I was so lucky that my dad used to play vinyls from Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, Creedence Clearwater Revival, the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Supertramp. So I was so lucky that my father listened to me, made me listen a lot of music.
Are there any musicians you would love to share the stage with?
Yeah, of course. I would love to share the stage with Nightwish because I love them, and I am so sad that I got no chance to see them on stage. So I think that that could be a double pleasure. Share the stage with them and finally see them on a show. Of course, I would love to share the stage with Guns N' Roses because they are my most favorite band since I was 12 years. And on the other hand, I think that whatever band from France is the good one. Because, yeah, it's super cool that you share the stage with the Rolling Stones, let's say, or whatever, a super big band. But you're gonna go next to them, and they're gonna say, if you are lucky, goodbye.
Yeah.
But if you share the stage with friends, you're gonna have fun. and at the end of the day, that's what counts. That you have good moments.
Next album, if you would have a choice for the next album and you could sign some guest musicians, so which guest musicians would you choose? Axl Rose as a vocalist?
I don't think so. Yeah, I love the band, I love the music, I love their albums, but I think that he's not in his best moment. Well, he is 60 years old, which I love to be 60 years old in the way that he is. He is touring during the year with 60 years, man. Hands down. Guest musicians. Well, why not? I would love to have Flo Jensen, and he would love to do that too. And yeah, why not? I have the pleasure to work with Gas G. He's an outstanding guitar player. I'd love to ask him. Yeah, maybe tomorrow I will ask him if he wants to play in my next album. Yeah, but as I mentioned, and the way that we did in this album, I think that it was the good way for us. We just invited some people that we know and we like how they play, and we are really sure that they can contribute to our music in the way that we want.
Let's switch the topic. Metal in Spain. Spain is not really a traditional metal country in Europe, like, I don't know, Scandinavia, for example, or also Germany. And when it comes to symphonic metal, there are a huge number of bands. You mentioned Nightwish. I don't mention the hundreds of bands from the Netherlands. So is that actually a challenge or an opportunity for Last Days of Eden that you are apparently, one of the very few symphonic metal bands coming from Spain compared to the really big ones from Northern Europe?
I think that we in Spain are belated regarding other countries. You know that for many years we have this dictator here in Spain, Francisco Franco, and he was in love with the traditional music in Spain, not with the rock, not with the maybe not the traditional, because if we think in traditional, we can think in folk music, but more the music that was done in Spanish in that moment. And let's say that he stopped the clock for 30 years. So we are 30 years later than other countries. For us, it's really important that we come out from Spain because the world is so big and we want to reach every country. But somehow it's some weird mentality here where if you are singing in English, for the Spanish people, you are not what they want. But on the other hand, they want bands out from Spain that sing in English. So, it's really weird.
It is kind of similar in Germany, not with metal. Not with metal. I think, people wouldn't like to have German metal bands singing in German. So that should be English. But in other music genres like pop music, and so I think people love German musicians singing in German. But they want, of course, English or whatever English-speaking music is, of course, much more popular than German music, of course. But metal in Germany is, I think, English. So I could not imagine Halloween singing in German.
But in this case, I get it. But in this case, here in Spain, if you are a metal band and you sing in English, you are not that successful. But you can be really, really, really successful if you sing in Spanish.
Okay.
It could be a disadvantage to us, but we think that our music sounds much better in English.
Yes. You do have a few bigger metal festivals in Spain, Resurrection Fest, for example.
Yep.
How big are the chances for Spanish metal bands to be, well, maybe in the afternoon or even playing in the evening of the festivals?
And the big ones, there are some of them that comes on with Spanish bands, but it's not that easy to get into the festivals because they want bands that they are getting much people, let's say like bigger bands. So in this case, you have to sing in Spanish usually to get into the festivals. Otherwise, you are not that big in Spain, so you won't have the chance to get into the festivals.
Okay.
So it's like this cycle that you go once and once again.
Well, the unique thing about Last Days of Eden is you have also these Celtic folk elements in your music. So that is, there are just a few Celtic regions in Spain. So you have this unique element, I thought. So then I reviewed another album of another Spanish band, Charmaine, Na Alma. So they have basically very similar, different music really, but also the symphonic metal with the Celtic elements. So they mix it up a little bit more with melodic death metal and stuff like that. So, but it seems to be that maybe the symphonic folk metal may be some kind of niche in Spain. So is symphonic metal more popular, and especially maybe in the Celtic regions in Spain, or how is that?
To be honest, I think that the symphonic metal is not working nowadays in Spain.
Right. Okay.
What I think is that people like nowadays, the most important music here in Spain now, metal-wise, is metalcore or death metal or that kind of more aggressive stuff. Symphonic metal, I think you can find barely 10 or 12 bands. There's a lot of heavy metal, classic heavy metal bands, but not that much. And the less when you are thinking about folk metal.
Okay.
There are some bands that they are playing folk metal, but this kind of aggressive folk metal with rough voices and stuff. But symphonic folk metal, no.
Where's your fan base then coming from?
Out of Spain. Definitely. Yep. Out of Spain. I think that the most they are coming from Germany. Then I think that it's Holland, Netherlands, or I have a look at Spotify one of these days, and it was like Germany, Netherlands, Sweden. Yeah, kind of.
You do have an advantage. You work together with a label, and you work together with Puerto Records, which is a German label. I would have never thought about that Puerto Records is a German label, but they are. How important is label support for bands, especially in those times?
I think that it's really important to have a label if they are working well. If they are doing things like working with persons instead of numbers, then they can do something for you. Otherwise, if you are a number and nobody is in, like on the other side of the phone, there's no passion, and you know that music is passion, and if you are losing this, I think it's not gonna work. Whatever the label is big or small, if there's passion in between, I think that this can work. Otherwise, you are gone. I think that it's much better if you are not with a label, if the label is not going to work with you with passion, than being with a big one without passion. If you are with a small one that works for you because they like your music, it can work. Definitely it can work. In this case, we found El Puerto, or they found us. I'm not sure at this moment, but the first thing that they said is that they love our music, and this is a really good start. We got some meetings through internet, Skype and stuff, and we were talking. We could see that they are person before business people, but of course they are business people too, and they want to do things well, and they want to earn money with their jobs. But this passion topic, I think that it's really important for a band.
How long are you with them?
1 year.
1 year, okay.
Yeah, just with this release.
Okay. Coming to future plans, I know it's difficult and challenging still. Let's hope we have a good summer without any restrictions. And what are the plans for Last Days of Eden for the upcoming month?
We have some shows. We've been playing 2 shows last weekend. They were awesome, amazing. We have another couple of shows in 2 weeks here in Spain. Then we have some summer fests in Spain and out of Spain. After the summer season, we will do some club shows again. And we will start thinking on preparing some more stuff for a new album. But I think that it's not going to happen until mid or late 23.
Okay. I'm almost through with my questions. Is there anything what you would like to tell your fans or the readers of Metal Temple?
Well, first I would like to thank you, Thomas, for being there again, doing this super nice and cool interview. I'd love to thank to Metal Temple and all the readers and viewers for listening to this interview. I hope that they liked. I hope that you all like our stuff. Otherwise, you can write us and tell us that you don't like it and tell what you want to hear from us. And we will try to do your thoughts and yeah. And I think that I just invite everybody to go to YouTube or Spotify to listen to our music or to have a look to our videos. And if you like it, I would suggest try to go to a show if you have the chance to do it, because everybody says that our shows are super cool. And yeah, not much more. If you like our music, you can buy our music. Otherwise, you can get it for free on the internet. You know that everybody can do it. it's stupid if you think that you cannot do it. So you cannot fight with that. And everybody's situation is different. So if you can get it for free, go for it. If you want to listen to Spotify, go for it. If you want to buy an album, go for it, of course. But I really suggest to go to a show.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that cool interview. I would suggest to your fans, buy the album because the physical CDs is still the best. So I'm a CD collector, so I would definitely buy the physical album.
Of course, you can buy it and open the booklet, read the lyrics and all the things. So I think that it's an extra that you cannot get, like clicking one web page and downloading an album.
Exactly. Excellent. Thank you very much for that cool interview. So
thank you, Thomas.
I was really happy to have you here for Metal Temple magazine.
I'm really happy to be here. And of course, thanks for your super nice review from the album. I can tell everybody to go to the website and read the review, because it's really detailed and it's really, you know, it's written with your heart.
It was actually, and with a little mistake. We will not tell the mistake, but if someone goes into the review, find the mistake.
Cool.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.